Alright guys, here we are. Thanks again to Cyclespot for letting me take out this Ducati. This is the Streetfighter V2 and today I'm doing a first ride review. I think this is going to be a good one. I really like this bike because it's quite a bit cheaper than the V4 and in my opinion it still has way more than enough power than you need for the street. I think it's a really good combo. Obviously it's still like a premium price bike compared to like an MT-09 or whatever, but it doesn't really fit in that category either. So yeah, I guess it kind of sits in its own right somewhere in the middle between the MT-09 and like the Ducati V4. In today's video we're going to take it for a ride, take it around some mild twisties and take it on the highway and let you guys know what I think. This bike is completely stock standard. There's nothing been done to it, no exhaust or anything. Yeah, I think as it stands it's about 23 grand in New Zealand dollars. I'll put the price up on the screen so you can see. Yeah, let's get this thing fired up, see what it sounds like. It's really busy at the moment, I think, because school holidays, everybody's out. When I was deciding to buy my Tuono, my V4 factory, I was really deciding between the V4 version of this or my bike. And after riding both, I ended up going with the Aprilia. I just really like the engine of that one. And I like the sound of the Aprilia a little bit better. I mean, it's all just personal preference really. I don't think you could go wrong with either one, but yeah, this bike, like I said, is a lot cheaper, and I think it's a really pretty good deal really. The dash is quite nice. It's small, I think it's smaller than the V4, but it has everything on there you want it, and it's nice and crisp like all the other Ducati screens, so. So that is the standard exhaust. It's not loud, but it's definitely not quiet. It has quite a nice sound for like a stock bike. One thing I noticed straight away is the turning lock on this is really good. Much better than my Tuono. I have it in sport mode at the moment. I had it in street mode riding in here and it feels pretty similar in low speeds, maybe a little bit snatchier in sport mode, but it's not really it's quite a smooth bike. The fueling seems pretty good to me. One thing I noticed like immediately is it feels like a much less substantial bike, like it feels a lot smaller. I think probably because I'm used to the Tuono, and even though it's a like in commas naked bike, it does have a fairing on the front. Ooh, ruthless. And this one is just like your hands and a tiny little dash and it just drops off. So it feels a lot smaller. Yeah, I think it obviously is smaller, it's a lot lighter. So around these kind of like traffic and like slow speed, like as a town bike, I think this would definitely be better than the Tuono because it's just a lot easier to manage in slow speeds. I think really like light. I use the word flickable a lot, but it just is a much more flickable bike than the Tuono. I think the Tuono is like better at high speeds. It's more stable in high speed cornering, where this is like in low speeds it's, I don't know, it's more I don't think more stable is the word, but it's easier like to change direction on this bike. I don't know how much you can hear with the wind, and the exhaust is quite quiet when you're rolling as well. But it obviously has like an exhaust valve that opens up when you get to a certain rev range. So yeah, city riding impressions around town, taking it to the shops, driving it to work, I think it's great. Really manageable power. I mean, I definitely am not recommending this bike to a learner, but as a good second bike I think this would be great. It's nowhere near as like angry as my Tuono. Obviously I think this has about 150-ish horsepower. I'll put the specs up on the screen as always. But yeah. It definitely feels planted. This one doesn't have the electronic suspension that the V4S has. I'm not too worried about that, to be honest. My Tuono does have, I have the factory which has electronic suspension, like semi-active suspension. I don't actually have it in semi-active suspension mode. I prefer it in manual mode. So I have my suspension in full manual and usually in track mode or sport mode at the least. And it is nice being able to change it. Like if I want a softer ride, I can put it in touring mode just with the click of a button, and it's really good. But I don't often do it anyway. So I think while electronic suspension and my suspension is obviously going to be better anyway, but I don't think it's a big deal to not have electronic suspension. I'll get this thing on the motorway and onto an on-ramp so we can open it and hear what it sounds like in a minute. I think one of the main criticisms this one gets for like a premium bike is that it doesn't have cruise control and it doesn't have a fuel gauge. I have mixed opinions on that. I don't really care about the fuel gauge. It's nice to have. It has a fuel light which came on before, and I did put some fuel in it. So if you guys would give me a thumbs up and a subscribe, that would help me grow the channel and pay for all the fuel, because I do like using my own fuel in the test bikes. I don't want to just take advantage of all the dealers. So yeah, hit that like and subscribe, that would be great. Back to the fuel gauge. I don't really care about it. Like I said, it's a nice to have. I definitely would rather have a fuel gauge, but I don't really care. You know, I think you get used to how many Ks it would do per tank as an owner, so that's fine. Bit tight to thread through there. If you guys saw my last review on the Ducati Desert X, I was talking about how nice the controls were. I think that actually has nicer buttons than this one. It feels a little bit more premium. It doesn't feel cheap, but I don't know, the buttons on the Desert X felt a little bit better. Same with the screen. The screen's the other orientation, like portrait orientation, but it's I think it's a little bit bigger. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think so. Still quite nice and minimal though. It doesn't have a whole bunch of stuff going on, which is nice. Riding position, it's good. I'm 6'1". I can easily get both feet down with a very slight bend in my leg. I am a little bit leaned over, but not as bad. So my Aprilia Tuono has 25mm bar risers on it, and that's still a little bit more wristy than this one. Still a little bit more of a lean on it. So this bike is definitely more comfortable. And this one having a hydraulic clutch, it's a little bit lighter to pull as well. So, you know, you add that up with the lightweightness of the bike, like the slow speed maneuverability, hydraulic clutch, the little bit more relaxed riding position. You're still kind of in a semi-attack position, I guess, but I would say it's a little bit more aggressive than like the MT-09. I got distracted by the cops there. Getting the old lasers out again, pulling everybody over. Anyway, we're about to jump on the motorway, so we'll get a little bit of a pull on the on-ramp, see what this thing's got. I don't feel any kind of heat coming from this one sitting in the traffic. Definitely seems to run a little bit cooler. The water temp is definitely cooler than my Tuono as well. Sitting in traffic, it tends to sit around 100 degrees. This one's sitting around 85. Yeah, I'm not feeling any heat. Like the V4 is much hotter. Let's call this the on-ramp test. We're in sport mode, like I said. Oh yeah. Still a very quick bike. You don't really, the power seems to come on like hard around 8,000 RPM. Yeah, that was lifting the front wheel in like second. Definitely a powerful bike. Like I said, this is way more power than you'd ever need for the street. Wind, I'm not getting much wind actually. Very stable feel to it. Does still have plenty of roll-on power, but you know, you can really feel the horsepower kick in around 8,000 RPM. A little bit of vibration. I don't know, you can probably see it in the mirror. Yeah, like a bit of chugginess when you're down in the lower RPMs. Yeah, these mirrors are hopeless. Quick shift is beautifully smooth. Much smoother than the Desert X. It feels like almost fifth gear is like the 100k an hour cruising speed gear, because if you're in sixth, it gives you a lot of vibration if you like open it up at 100k an hour. The pegs aren't as high either as my Tuono. It's an interesting look. Yeah, honestly, I think if you wanted like an Italian super bike slash, you know, like an exotic street bike, and you were pretty keen on the Ducati brand, unless you just wanted to flex and get the V4, I would probably go for this V2. I quite like it. I actually think I prefer the sound of the V2 engine as well. That's going to be probably an unpopular opinion, but it's just my opinion. A lot of people really, you know, the V4 sounds amazing, but I just like the tone of this one. Yeah, I think this is going to be a great bike for someone that wants to kind of step up, get something a little bit more premium, get into the like Italian scene, have something that's still stupid fast, you know, far too much for the street. Where the V4 is just like, you're never really going to be able to use it on the street, certainly not legally. Even with this, you're still not really, but you know, you could take it to the track, have a really good time, and it's still, you know, it looks exactly like the V4 other than the exhaust and that rear shock. Yeah, I think I would be saving my money. Honestly, even if I had, you know, if someone said, here's 45 grand, you got to either buy the V4S or this bike and you can spend the rest on it, or save it, or do whatever the hell you want, I would 100% buy this. You know, the V4 is a beast, and it's like the ultimate naked, probably equally with the Tuono, I think. As we pull into Cyclespot here again, yeah, really nice and maneuverable. There's my Harley. Beautiful bike. Alright guys, thanks for watching this first ride, and we'll see you on the next one coming real soon.